greetings on behalf of NTZ No Trafficking Zone, and you're about to hear from the founding president of NTZ in a moment. My name is Dr. James Dixon, and I am honored to be a board member with NTZ, one of the co-founders, but more than that, a supporter of this mission and cause. And today we have, of course, a number of distinguished guests who will share with us today succinctly, briefly, more in the Episcopalian mode than the Baptist mode. But we are grateful to all of these persons who have taken out of their schedules to get here today for this very, very important announcement about the No Trafficking Zone law. To kick us off today, I'm honored to present a young lady who came to Houston about 6 or 7 years ago from the East Coast, concerned about children who ended up in this caught up in this scourge of trafficking. Moved here on a mission and has been nonstop. The only person I think who moves as fast as she does is Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. They're always working on something meaningful. Jacqueline Alludo is no stranger to the topic of sex and human trafficking. She breathes it. Her heart beats to save people, to rescue, to restore and to recover individuals, and to get to the root causes. And we're here today because NTZ exists as a result of her vision. I want to also say that I'm speaking on behalf of my colleague, Judge Bonnie Helms, who's also a board member of NTZ. We appreciate her and other board members who are not present. Kelly Barron is here. Thank you, board member Kelly Barron. At this time, I want you to hear from our president, co-founder, a founding president of NTZ, Jacqueline Alludo, and after she has completed, we'll return to introduce some very special people who have to make this happen. Receive now, Jacqueline Alludo.
Thank you, Bishop Dixon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, the media, and all of these amazing people up here. If you know anything about human trafficking and these violent sex crimes, we really do need to be united in this and really come together. Nelson Mandela once said, "Our children are our greatest treasure. They are our future. Those who abuse them tear at the fabric of our society and weaken our nation." I came here 7 years ago really with a dream to talk about what was happening with children being sex trafficked. And when I came here, I was blessed to meet human trafficking survivors, some as young as 12 years old, talking to me about how they were being sex trafficked and exploited out of their schools. And it broke my heart. And as I continued to work, I met survivor leaders who were 30 and 40 years old and talked about where they were first introduced to exploitation was again on their school campuses with these sex crimes. I couldn't imagine that this was happening. And so we did a lot of research and we realized that laws really needed to change, that our children are not being protected. And it is our job to protect our children, not with lip service, but with actions. It is our job to make sure that we are accountable and worry about accountability over liability. There are 79,800 children on any given day trafficked in the state of Texas. 55% of them have been groomed and approached on school campuses. Today is a day for all of the survivor leaders, survivors that are caught in the life, and hopefully we can prevent this crime from happening. We need to lend our voices to people that cannot be heard, especially children. And so I want to thank everybody here who is joining me. I want to thank Senator Taylor for creating SB 1831. We met with Senator Taylor at Bishop Dixon's church at the Community of Faith 2 years ago, and we told him about this horrific crime, and I didn't really know if he was going to do anything. You know, he said he was going to, but you meet a lot of elected officials that say they're going to do things, and they don't. And come to find out, well, Senator Taylor was a man of his word, and I have the blessing of working with his wife, Carrie Taylor, from Unbound. And so this legislative session, he kept his word, and he really made sure that this happened. And Rep. Thompson, she carried the bill in the House, and there was just so many people that came together. So I want to thank everyone that came together. I want to thank all the advocacy agencies, all the survivor leaders, and all the people that just spent months at the Capitol fighting for this bill and standing behind No Trafficking Zone and SB 1831. We want to send a message to predators. Everywhere you see the No Trafficking Zone sign, you will be held accountable. There will be a higher penalty. It will be a felony. So we hope that this prevents also exploitation and trafficking from happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, President Aludo, and to all of those who are here. We're grateful. Jacqueline mentioned two people who made this happen in the House and in the Senate, beginning in the Senate with Senate Bill 1831. Senator Larry Taylor is going to come to address us now. Following Senator Larry Taylor would be, we call her the Queen at the Texas Capitol, Ms. T. She is the Dean of the House. Representative Symphonia Thompson will greet us by Zoom. But we're grateful, as Jacqueline said, Senator Taylor took this up, he and his team, and made sure that we could be here on today along with his colleague on the other side of the aisle, but not on the other side of the issue. And I think that's important. It's all right to be on the other side of the aisle, but we ought to be on the same side when it comes to certain issues. And so let's give them a hand for doing that as Senator Taylor comes.
And to that I say amen. There certainly are issues that go through any kind of barriers that we have by party. I see some of my colleagues, Senator Alvarado here, who worked very hard helping us get this done, all of my colleagues. In fact, this was not a controversial issue, but I want to tell you how I came to this issue. This started over 10 years ago in my family. My daughter was overseas, Representative Reynolds, and she was overseas. We found out about human trafficking that was still going on in this world. We thought, oh my gosh, that's terrible, but we thought it's going on over there. And then as we learned more about the issue, it was happening here. It was in Texas. And this is not something that Texans would put up with if they knew about it. So my wife actually got inspired enough to form a group and work on this issue, Unbound Houston. And it started off with awareness, just making people aware, because we knew once people knew about this, they would not put up with it in Texas. We do not allow that. And that's been a great thing. We've made great strides, but guess what? It is still going on in Texas. One study by University of Texas in 2018, I think it was 79,000 young people in this state being trafficked. And I was the chairman of education for the last 4 sessions. And we've done a lot to try to improve our school system and try to get our students a better education, make sure they're ready for the world. But guess what? They did a survey of former trafficking victims, and over 55% were trafficked while they were in school. Think about that. Some of them were taken off campus to go be trafficked and then brought back in the same day. We can't educate our kids if we can't keep them safe. So this is important. So this no trafficking zone, yes, we're going to post signs, which is going to help raise some more public awareness and give people access to information on how to report things they see. Because one of the things, if you see something, you need to report it. But on top of that is we're going to increase penalties. If you're caught doing these activities on a campus or on around a school activity, we are increasing the penalties. No light sentences for this. And we're even going after social media postings that are done during school hours. If you're using social media to try to do this business during school hours, we're going to increase those penalties. And those are things that we can prove, and we can send these people to prison for a very, very long time. I'm happy to work with this group. When they came to me with this, like I say, I've been in on this project for over 10 years. I've been supportive of every other measure that's been done in our Texas legislature, but to be able to carry a bill with this importance behind it and protecting our students, I was more than happy to be a part of it. And I'm proud to be here today to announce the passing of Senate Bill 1831. The signs are being prepared by TEA today. In fact, I just got an update. They're working on the templates on how to get that out, and TEA will be getting these signs out to every campus across Texas, because it's not just happening on some campuses. It's happening on all of our campuses, and we need to stop it right here in Texas. We'll lead this country back to the way it should be, where every person is free and free to make their own choices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Taylor. Are we ready for the Zoom with Rep. Thompson?
I'm here.
You're on.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you so much for letting me join you on this very excellent piece of legislation, Senate Bill 831. As Senator Kell had enumerated the importance of this bill, but let me just tell you, this is something that we've been trying to do to curb to take the really bite out of the problem, and the problem has been the buyer's problem. We have been trying to chip away at that. This called for a Texas-sized solution, and we believe that this bill offers such a Texas-sized solution. We got 1,000 feet of a school, whether it's private or public, where children are attending and persons are trying to solicit them for trafficking. These are the penalties and the laws that we put in place to help to take a big bite out of those kinds of crimes. Why do we work so hard? I think our previous speaker had enumerated what is our future. Our future are the children of our state. And secondly, we want to make sure that we can reduce the trauma that children encounter during their lives, particularly the early stages of their lives when they're trying to learn, and we want them to be successful, and we want them to be able to go to school and be able to get educated, but definitely not to be trafficked. And we want to give them an opportunity to be able to have a shot at life.
Yes.
A shot at not being penalized. So that's the reason why that I was delighted to carry this bill in the House. Delighted that we were not only doing something about the school zone, but we was also doing something about social solicitation, because we know a lot of persons use that particular tool in which to lure our students into criminal activities. So I am so proud of all of the activists and all of the persons who helped to make this bill possible. It was such a tremendous piece of legislation until I included this bill into one of my bills, just to make sure, the time did not run out on us. And we had an opportunity to be able to see that this bill was going to become a part of the human trafficking task force bill that I was carrying for the Attorney General's office, which was a bill, House Bill 1540. So this bill got passed twice. It got passed as a Senate bill, and it got passed into the omnibus human trafficking bill, House Bill 1540. So we want to make sure that all of the students of our state of Texas is doubly protected. Thank you so much for letting me participate in this marvelous piece of legislation and this wonderful press conference.
Thank you.
I now have the honor of calling someone up who is extremely important to me. Her and her family. She is a survivor leader. She was exploited and trafficked out of her schools. She is on the White House Council, and she has turned her pain into purpose and is making such a difference in the world. And despite the world being not kind to her, she probably has one of the biggest hearts that I have ever met. So please let me introduce Courtney Litvak.
I want to thank everybody that is here today, because combating human trafficking and sex trafficking in schools requires a multidisciplinary approach. It requires partnership and proof of what partnership can accomplish when we unify for a cause, such as fighting for the lives, the sanctity of human lives of our children. Look what can be accomplished. I want to thank every person who is here today, who was a part of making this possible. I want to thank our sheriff. I want to thank DA Middleton. I want to thank Congressman Michael McCall, Senator Taylor, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee. This is a nonpartisan issue, everybody. And my family and I know more than anybody on why this legislation, the No Trafficking Zone bill, is so important. In 2015 and 2016, I was targeted and groomed on my high school campus in Katy ISD, in Katy, Texas. Students who had been lured into the life who were acting as spotters and recruiters, who were working with former graduates of my high school. This hits all too close to home, and I promise you, this issue is so much more of an epidemic than people realize. It is impacting every community and every city across this country, and it happened to me in my hometown of Katy, Texas, at Cinco Ranch High School. Katy ISD is full of incredible teachers and administrators and staff who care about our students. We take pride in Katy ISD and the tax-paying, hardworking Americans who pay to have their children in top schools, because the one place that parents believe and my family believed that I would be safe, that they were not able to supervise me, was my high school. And believe me, they tried when I started to distribute very high-risk behaviors, but this begins as the first step of grooming is to befriend. And former friends of mine and peers at my high school who were connected to convicted felons are who put me on the radar of my first trafficker. This trafficker, who was a former graduate, not much older than I. So many people have a misconception of what traffickers, buyers, and victims look like, and that's what we're here to do, is to help people understand how widespread and how it does not discriminate, and this can impact every single person, and how this carried out and impacted me on my school campus in school was this trafficker was able to come and pick me up off of school property during school hours. He was not only a convicted felon, he was a convicted felon for human trafficking. He was 21 years old, a former graduate, a friend, somebody who I believed that I could trust. Had no trafficking zone bill been in place at the time that this was happening to me, my outcome could have been so different, and I'm gonna tell you why. We have been chasing the issue of human trafficking for so long, and we need to have a proactive approach to no longer be chasing this problem, but to get ahead of it. If we can save 1 or 2 or 100 children from experiencing what myself and other victims who were victimized at their school property, at their campus, under the watch of teachers and administrators, it's gonna take accountability. As the school board and Katy ISD superintendent were more concerned about liability. I have come to learn the hard way in my family, who fought for me as I was being trafficked across the country and eventually led into Las Vegas and being trafficked alongside women who were recruited from Katy, Texas 10 years prior to me being trafficked into Las Vegas. This has been going on for a very long time. It's going to take school administrators, superintendents, and the school board to take accountability and no longer worry about liability, but worry about putting the lives of these children first, above everything else. And it's going to take a unified group of people to be able to push for this and to continue to pull the darkness into the light. And I am so grateful, because if you would have told me several years ago that I would be here, alive and able to communicate my testimony to you for a time such as this, I wouldn't have believed you. But through the redeeming power of my Lord Jesus Christ, and with all the people who've given me hope that I'm not alone, that my voice is heard, my voice does matter, the voice of victims, they are not the voiceless, but they are unheard. And they deserve to have their voices be elevated to the highest platform to ensure that we are together in making the greatest impact possible. And so I want to thank No Trafficking Zone and all the people here today that made this possible. And I am so encouraged, and I have a great living hope that this is only the beginning of great justice, because God will give us justice. Thank you.
If anybody wonder why we're here, the nation and the world needs to know, and all Texas needs to know why we're here, and that's why we're here, because there are other Courtneys who have not yet been rescued, restored, and recovered. And there are others who would be future Courtneys without a law like this and the other work that we are destined to do together. We've got several people going to speak, and if I might, in the language of a legislator. Speakers will have 1 to 2 minutes, and then we will ring the bell unless you yield your time back to someone else. But that's because we have a plethora of speakers who are all important voices, but we want to be mindful of the time. At this time, I want to ask, in this order, if you would come, HISD Superintendent Millard House will come. We also have, is the superintendent from Aldine here? Okay. All right, thank you. But we do have Paul Shanklin, who is here. When he speaks for Commissioner Cagle, he can speak for Aldine as well. But Superintendent House will come, followed by Larissa Pluto, who represents Senator Congressman Mike McCall. I'm still crying, I'm sorry, from quoting the speech. After that, we will have Senator Carol Alvarado, and then we will have Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. I want to mention, too, we have in the House State Representative Ron Reynolds, who worked on this bill. And Ron, why don't you throw you and Carol piggyback, because I think it's important that we continue this whole piece from the Senate to the House. I think that's a powerful picture and a powerful story. And then the Congresswoman will come, and I know she'll do justice on the end. Yes, of course.
I just want to say one thing, and I'll be very quick. I forgot to thank the NTZ board and team. No one gets paid on our team. We all volunteer our time. And these people paid for their money to go to the Capitol and fight for this and pay for hotels and just do everything. So I want to just make sure that we thank the No Trafficking Zone team and Bishop James Dixon, who I met 7 years ago and has literally learned everything about human trafficking and has taken every call in the middle of the night to help everyone. So I would feel bad if I didn't thank them all.
Good morning. I'm Millard House, Superintendent of HISD, and today's a good day. Today's a very good day. In the words of the late, great Whitney Houston, I believe the children are our future. Treat them well and let them lead the way, Courtney. It's important that this legislation move forward, and those that have the responsibility of carrying it do so. And as a superintendent of the largest school district in Texas, I look forward to doing so. I'd like to acknowledge several individuals behind me, but the police chief, Troy Finner, NTZ co-founders, Jacqueline Alto, as well as Dr. James Dixon behind me, Senator Larry Taylor, and State Representative Sephora Thompson, who you've heard from, as well as Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez. I commend you, Senator Taylor, for your efforts in putting this legislation forward, and the Texas legislature for approving it as well. And an extra thank you to HISD alum, State Representative Sephora Thompson, for carrying this bill through as she has done. I'm extremely proud to stand with you all today as we work together to protect our children, our most vulnerable. One of our top priorities as educators is to ensure the safety of our children. Of all the different social institutions, schools are perhaps the best position to identify and report suspected traffickers. Schools can and should be safe places for our students. By creating these no traffic zones, we are working to ensure better outcomes for our students. We are aiming to post signs to notify the public of the increased criminal penalties of the human trafficking violations near public schools outside of all of our campuses by the end of February. It is on all of us to combat this trafficking and do what's best for our children. I again commend all of those that were involved, and I look forward to doing our part in HISD and pushing my colleagues across the state to do the same. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Paul Shanklin, and I work with Commissioner Jack Cagle's office, Harris County Precinct 4. I'm also a very proud trustee of the Aldine Independent School District, and I'd like to acknowledge my board president and all of the other people that are here. We stand in unity with everybody here. And Representative, nice to meet you too this morning. And we just want to say we stand in partnership, and we are very, very happy to lend our voice and lend our support. And as someone said earlier, you cannot educate if we don't protect. And we're here to protect our students. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Congressman Michael McCaul wishes he could be here today. This issue is his #1 issue and is passionate about combating it on any level. And we are so thankful for our state partners who have taken the charge on this at the state level. And we are thankful for Jacqueline and the bishop and our survivor leader, Courtney, whom we are so proud of and so proud to see her growth and the redemption in her story. I will say this, our education system is one of the largest intersections that our children come in contact with throughout their life. Whether it's a child caught up in familial trafficking or who might be pimped out at the local truck stop before they're dropped off at school, or the vulnerable populations of foster care children who are preyed upon because of those vulnerabilities, and they go into school, but yet they go home and are faced with this. Or it's your child who has a cell phone and access to the digital platforms and one of the largest tools that traffickers use to methodically groom our children. Education is so important. Our kids need to be educated. Our teachers need to be educated. Our counselors need to be educated. This isn't some feel-good sign that we're putting out in front of schools. This is a battleground, and we need to take it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Larissa. Speaking for Congressman Mike McCaul, we appreciate his leadership and your leadership as well. At this time, we will have the state officials, Senator Alvarado, Representative Ron Reynolds, along with Representative Ann Johnson are here. Thank you all so very much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Bishop Dixon, and it's good to be here with all of you. Courtney, that takes a lot of courage to do what you did, and from that, you empower us, you inspire us to keep fighting. To Jacqueline, thank you for your leadership. I'm sure you're glad you're here in Texas and not back on the East Coast. Bishop Dixon, thank you and your partners for the leadership. I can't say enough about Senator Taylor and Sophronia Thompson. Certainly, if you want something done in the Texas legislature, you pick the right people to carry it across the finish line. I'm only sad that Senator Taylor will not be there for another session, but I appreciate his work. And this is not a red issue, a blue issue. It is a human issue. Yes. And we saw what it means to put a face on the issue right before our eyes just a few minutes ago. Yeah. So I join my colleagues, and I know Congresswoman Lee has also been very engaged in this issue in Congress, and our other partners stand here with my House colleagues to lend full support in this. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not much I can add. I'm Representative Reynolds. I was proud to work with Chair Sophronia Thompson, but I really want to commend Courtney, and again, putting the courage and the tenacity to share her testimony. I want to thank Bishop Dixon. I remember during the session, he was relentless, and all of those who volunteered their time to travel to Austin that aren't getting paid. I want to thank everyone. It takes a village. Senator Taylor, your leadership was phenomenal. We wish we could see more bipartisanship like this to get things done in Texas. This is the model for success. God bless you, and I want to thank my colleague, Representative Johnson, as a freshman member, was very much strongly advocating for this bill's passage as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'm proud to be here as one of your state representatives, but I'm also proud to be here as your former chief human trafficking prosecutor here in Harris County. And what we know is exploiters will find children where they are, whether it's social media or the mall or in our schools. And so you have seen that at every level, local advocates, state officials, congressional officials, that Texas is sending the strongest message that our children will be protected in their schools. We have seen so many faces of the solution here today, but I want to highlight those that you often don't see and don't get credit. And those are our law enforcement officers at 2, 3, 4 a.m. that are out there working to make these recoveries of these victims. They are often not seen by us because they are doing the hard work behind the scenes. And so with all the advocates, with all of you who have stood up, thank you for daily going out and saving Texas children.
I could not be prouder, I could not be more humbled to be able to be here today, not in Washington, to be able to see a magnificent expression of what America is all about. When someone is in need, we have traditionally come without definition, without colors, and we have come to the rescue. Courtney, may I just have you come up and stand by me just for a moment? This is not a symbol of human trafficking. This is a symbol of life. This is a symbol of someone who now lives to tell the scourge of human trafficking. This is someone who stands as a barrier and a model for the nation. And I want to thank you humbly for finding your place, for accepting being saved, for giving us some grace for not doing what we were supposed to do. I apologize to you. And I will tell you, we will never do that again. Let me acknowledge my state representatives, the Dean, the Queen. Representative Thompson has been a model of advocacy for the rights of women and the vulnerable. What better partner than Senator Taylor, who does not look to what your party definition is, but simply comes to the rescue. Senator Taylor, thank you so very, very much. Let me thank as well Representative Alvarado, Johnson, and Reynolds, and then the first responders, D.A. Middleton and Fort Bend Sheriff. I've just got to calling your name for a national conference, along with our other law enforcement, and all of the educational persons. What a special place to be. Our new board member, I think Brother Gibbs is, or not. Okay, well, he's an advocate. I'm naming him. I know our board member, Bishop Ogletree, and of course, what can I say about Jackie? I know the gavel is coming, but let me try to speak as quickly as I can. 8 years ago, I brought the first federal hearing to Houston, Texas, with my friend, Congressman McCall, on human trafficking. In fact, Representative Johnson, I believe, was a witness, because at that time, and still, although we have made great strides, Houston was listed as one of the #1 epicenters of human trafficking. But we have seen the coming together to make this a different statement, Jackie, for NTZ's leadership and passion. We can now say, so goes Texas, so goes the nation. And so goes it in a way that will make a difference, because an adult or child trafficked, unlike Courtney, may never be seen again. Yes. They either may be lost forever to their family, they may have their name changed, or they may lose their life. Yes. Do we really realize that is what we're facing? And so in my legislative work, starting from that hearing some years ago, we have constantly worked to ensure, with Jackie and Bishop Dixon's outstanding collaboration, I would venture to say late night 1 a.m. meetings, to be able to ensure that we get the right message in the United States of America. And then that doing, when we wrote the Violence Against Women Act, we put the CHOOSE grants in there that can be utilized for best practices for human trafficking. And I want to make sure that we use those grants across the nation. We passed the Frederick Douglass Trafficking Victims Prevention Act to be able to get the federal government to pay attention to the tragedy of human trafficking as a crime. We know 1,000 children are still across the nation in prostitution or arrested. That should not be their pathway. And we also know that due to the lack of awareness, by any number of layers of people, hospitals, airplanes, and yes, schools. We lose children like Courtney, whose life should have never been detoured by the scourge of human trafficking. And it is important that we enunciate, it is a scourge. It is a devastation of life. It hurts not only the individual, but it hurts the family members. It hurts her friends. It hurts the school and the school districts. How appropriate it is for us to be in a regional education office. Thank you, Superintendent House, and as well Superintendent Gaffney, for your leadership, and others around the nation. Let it be very clear that Texas, between 1998 and 2003, more than 500 people from 18 countries was ensnared in 57 labor operations in almost a dozen cities throughout the state. We are a border state. And so it is crucial that the federal government listens to NTZ. And so I will be seeking to have the federal government declare a national emergency in human trafficking. That brings about resources of all of the agencies and our federal agencies working even more closely with our local agencies. And then ensuring that the work that has been done here in Texas has a national platform. And so I'll be looking to introduce and to bring to the attention of the national arena a no sex trafficking zone across America, for schools across America. I know that it will be a bipartisan effort. I know that we have no other option because of all the work that we've done and all the work that Texas has done. If the boundaries are surrounded by those who have no apparatus to stop the scourge of human trafficking and sex trafficking, then all centers around Texas trying to survive while 49 other states are suffering and people are being lost and never to be seen again by their families. So I want to congratulate this stupendous coming together. We in the federal government should play our role, and I will certainly be very much front on the issue by continuing the work that has been done here and say to the nation, human trafficking, sex trafficking is a scourge on the people of this nation, and we have to not sit by, but fight it with everything we can, and we are going to protect our children and keep them safe, not only in Texas, but we're going to keep them safe around the nation. Thank you all so very, very much.
Thank you, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and for catching the vision that she's always carried since that time when you started. And Jacqueline has sung your praises around the nation, along with Congressman McCall, saying that in Texas we have congressional leaders who want to fight together to end this scourge. And our goal for all of us at NTZ is to create no trafficking zones in every community, every city, every county, every state, so that ultimately the United States is a no trafficking zone. And schools should simply be about education and not exploitation. And if we're not strong enough to protect our children at school, we're too weak to call ourselves leaders. And so I want to thank God for the tenacity of these people who are standing here. And ladies and gentlemen of the press, we've got about 12 more minutes, so please be a little patient with us. I'm so honored, and we're so honored to have with us today. And by the way, Congresswoman, we're ready to catch a flight to go to Congress to testify on the House.
You will be called. The hearing
and I mean all of us. Yeah, I mean all of us, because if all of us show up, we cannot be told no. And that's what it's going to take.
Welcome you.
Thank you so very much. We're grateful to have a mayor in our city who stands with us as well. And we're going to hear from Chris Graves of Mayor Turner's office, and then we will hear from Assistant Chief Representative Chief Finner. We'll hear from Ernest Garcia, Assistant Chief Ernest Garcia. We've got DA Brian Middleton from Fort Bend, and Sheriff Eric Fagan from Fort Bend. And we also have Mr. Wayne Coleman, who's here representing Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez. We're so grateful to have all of these individuals here. You've heard from Paul Shanklin representing Commissioner Cagle. And by the way, Commissioner's Court just gave a nice contribution to help NTZ's mission today. They approved that while we were here at the press conference on today. So we're grateful to God for all of that support. At this time, let's hear from Chris and then from Assistant Chief Garcia.
All right, excellent. First, I just want to say thank you on behalf of Mayor Turner. Of course, my name is Chris Graves. I'm the Associate Director on Human Trafficking and Domestic Violence. Of course, first, before I begin, I definitely want to recognize the work of Senator Taylor, Representative Thompson for the No Trafficking Zone Act. And of course, I really want to credit Jacqueline and Bishop Dixon for originally co-founding the NTZ initiative and really this coalition of community members they have brought about to really make an impact. And we see efforts like this as really additive to the work that Mayor Turner has done to address human trafficking really since his first year in office. We know hotels and motels are venues for commercial sex trafficking, but also child sex trafficking. So Houston is the first major U.S. city to have an anti-trafficking hotel ordinance on the books. That means our city's 500 plus hotels and motels have to train employees on human trafficking, post signage. They have to certify to us that they have trained, and then if employees are retaliated against for reporting, we also have a grievance mechanism. The ordinance went into effect in 2021, and already we've seen a 95% compliance rate. We also launched the Common Good Agency to support survivors' economic independence. We engage clients through job matches, informational sessions with industry partners, as well as social media and entrepreneurial assistance. Since 2021, we've seen promising results with clients securing jobs. Finally, on one more note, we chaired the Human Rights Subcommittee that's part of Houston's 2026 bid committee to host the World Cup. We engaged over 100 stakeholders, local, national, and international, on human rights issues, trafficking, child safety, women's rights, to identify risks and legacy solutions. And we look forward to setting really the human rights standard if we're selected as host. Before I close, we've made a lot of progress. We have a lot of accomplishments, but clearly hearing stories like Courtney's, there's a lot of work left to be done. There are gaps left to be done, and we look forward to really seeing what NTZ can do to make an impact, and we look forward to being part of that solution. Thank you.
So good morning, everybody. I'm Ernest Garcia, Assistant Chief with the Houston Police Department. And on behalf of Police Chief Troy Finner and the Houston Police Department, thank you, Bishop and Jackie, for allowing us to be part of this group. And you, Courtney, your statement was very powerful. It brings the focus on that this issue is alive and well. And even in our smaller cities, it doesn't have to be a big city like Houston, Texas, but in these smaller cities and communities, this issue of human trafficking is something that we all need to be worried about. So I'm honored to be here representing the Houston Police Department with our partners. It's going to take a collaborative effort between our federal partners, our state partners, our advocates, and the Houston law enforcement agencies here in the area. Our children, our children are our most precious resource. So it takes all of us to make sure that they deserve to have a safe place coming from school, to be at school. So this law that was passed makes us go in the right direction. So again, on the behalf of the Houston Police Department, we're ready to step side by side with our partners, with HISD Police Chief Pete Lopez. And again, thank you very much for allowing us to be here. Thank you very much.
D.A. Middleton.
Thank you, Bishop. As I was standing here, I was kind of touched by the bipartisanship that's shown here. It's an example of what can be done when people do what's right for the right reasons, putting partisanship aside and just simply having the courage to do what's right. So we can all agree that slavery is and was wrong. Human trafficking is just a modern day version of it. For our viewers, if you could imagine losing control of your body to the point that it's exploited sexually for profit. And then take it a step further and imagine that victim is a child. That's why we're here. That's the evil, that's the scourge in our society that we want to eliminate. And this legislation takes it a step further for us. We need to do everything as elected officials and as community members and in law enforcement to make it harder for traffickers to operate. We need to make it harder for them to traffic our children and make it easier for them to be put in jail where they deserve to be. And I want to thank all my law enforcement partners because we stand together, united against this problem, this evil in our society. And I'd like to thank Courtney Litvak, and in her speech, she talked about the sanctity of human life. Now, we look at Courtney and we see a model human being, and that's not always the end result, as the congressman noted, for victims of human trafficking. She had a far better result than what we see a lot of times. That's what motivates me, is speaking for those who can't speak for themselves. Because what these traffickers do, they reach our young people before they have the sophistication and the courage and the ability to fight them off and to fight off their tactics and recruiting them to engage in human trafficking. So stand with us and help us eliminate human trafficking in our community.
Sheriff Eric Fagan.
First, let me give honor and praise to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and to thank him for putting strength into Miss Courtney, for her to come out not only as a victim, but as a survivor and as a shero. Because of people like her, this bill was passed. This bill crossed all party lines, and like someone said earlier, it's not an issue about party, it's an issue of human beings. So we should all work together to stop this scourge on our society. And I want to thank, and I'm so happy, very happy, that I heard from our congressman, the hardest working congressman in America, Ms. Sheila Jackson Lee, to take this federally. If our greatest asset is our children, then we need to show that not only in the state of Texas, we're number one to show it first though, but we need to show it in this whole nation. And so thank you so very much for what you're doing, and God bless everyone.
Wayne Coleman. Where's Wayne? There it is. How you doing? Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be here. My name is Wayne Coolman. I'm the major over our Criminal Investigations Bureau with the Sheriff's Office. And on behalf of our Sheriff, Ed Gonzalez, thank you. I want to thank the President, Jacqueline Alludo, Bishop Dixon, Senator Taylor, Representative Thompson for their work on getting this bill passed. In my 35 years that I'm into now in law enforcement, some of the worst and most egregious injuries that I've seen have come at the hands of pimps to people who have been trafficked. They are the scourge of the earth. We have got to come together just like this group did. People in our community, this is a call to action on y'all. We've been given some great tools to work with here. We need your help. We need y'all to come in, y'all to report what you see. Help us to help you. Our children are our future, and we need, as a community, to raise them right. I'd like for the religious community to get back into the churches any way you can. These human traffickers we need people of good moral compass coming together, all of us as a community, to do everything that we can. Sheriff Gonzalez supports the no trafficking zone 100%. We are tickled to death to hear that Sheila Jackson Lee is going to take this federal, and thank you all for your time. It's an honor to be here.
thank you so very much for that. And I want to correct, this is Major Coleman. I want to say that correctly because I don't want you to arrest me on today, but we're grateful to God. Sheriff Gonzalez and Chief Finner are ardent supporters of NTZ, and because of them, Jacqueline reminded me to mention, we have a no trafficking zone at NRG Stadium and Park, the first sports entertainment venue in the world that is no trafficking zone. And so Texas is setting the pace for the rest of the nation. And we want to commend and thank Sheriff Gonzalez and Chief Finner, along with our other partners on that project. Jacqueline?
I also see Commander Anderson. She's over there. I am the Community Awareness Coordinator for HETRA, the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance of the Southern District, which brings together law enforcement partners and victim services. Thank you so much for all that you do. I know that you all work day and night. When I was listening to Congresswoman Lee speak, most of you all don't know, but when Backpage was taken down, it was this Congresswoman who did the FOSTA-SESTA bill for restitutions for victims and carried that bill on the House floor. Most people don't know that, and so she's been fighting for victims for quite a long time now, so we're so very honored to have her here. Next, I want to call Jennifer Hill from the Children's Assessment Center. If you know anything about the Children's Assessment Center, they are all about ending exploitation and protecting children. Please come up.
Good morning. I'm honored to be here this morning on behalf of the Children's Assessment Center. We're the Child's Advocacy Center here in Harris County, and we work with victims of child sexual abuse and child sex trafficking. We provide forensic interviews, medical examinations, and mental health services to children who have been affected by child sexual abuse and child sex trafficking and their families free of charge. We provide trainings for schools, school staff, professionals that are in the medical field, and really all organizations who would like a training for parents and for community members. And you can find those at our website if you're interested in trainings. I want to say that we are so proud to be here with all of these organizations standing behind me to fight this battle against human trafficking. But as they've all said, this is not something that we are going to be able to do without the help of everyone in our community. It is the responsibility of every adult to say something, to protect children, because we want children to be safe everywhere, with their friends, in their homes, and in schools, and the truth is that they just aren't anymore. And it will take all of us to be able to make a difference. This is a huge step, and there are so many more that we can take, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe these are our last speakers, last but never least. We've been honored to work with the Rotary and to work with students. We really wanted them to create their own campaigns. We keep on telling them what's happening to them in schools, but we really need to hear from them now and find out what's happening with them. I've been honored to work with these incredible young minds, and I'm just so blown away, and I have so much hope for the future. So please come up, and then Michelle, you can join them also.
If you've ever heard James Dixon, the bishop says, if you know something, you must do something. Rotarians are people of action. Exploitation, grooming, and human trafficking isn't happening somewhere else. As everyone here has recognized, it's happening right here in our community. District 5890 is thrilled to partner with NTZ, to do our part, to lend our voice, and to lend the voice of the future Rotarians, our interactors, to bring a campaign to end human trafficking into their schools. We're so excited with the work that's been done with Jacqueline Alludo and the bishop's help, and I can't wait for you to hear from these amazing high school students about how they are going to have an impact on this dreaded modern slavery.
Thank you so much, Michelle and Jacqueline, both. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I just wanted to thank both of you guys, Jacqueline and Michelle, and the No Trafficking Zone for inviting us here today to share about our thoughts on the important topic of human trafficking. My name is Christine Yuan, and I serve as our current Interact District 5890 governor, and I'm also a senior at Clements High School. And I wanted to share about the deep and profound effect NTZ has had on my specific community. We were able to host a student conference featuring Courtney Litback, and she actually was able to share about her experiences as a survivor leader. And honestly, after hearing her speak, it really broke my heart, because growing up in Sugar Land, Texas, I honestly felt like trafficking and going to school, like I felt like I could be safe at school. And it really opened my eyes to see how students, people who I saw every day, families, could be trafficked at something most cherished, like even like a school homecoming dance. And as like a veteran of our student council and like putting on the homecoming dance each year, it never even occurred to me that classmates of mine could be trafficked at such a place. And imagining that human trafficking can happen and continues to happen right under our noses really left me in utter heartbreak and shock. And learning about the pressingness and intricacies of this issue and being given the chance to help make a change through having a student campaign and working with the NTZ to make an impact, and learning about how the NTZ No Trafficking Zone bill has been passed to make schools a no trafficking zone right where we are right now, that really impacted me. And now I'd like to introduce one of my best friends, Sarah Gelfer, who's also an Interact District officer and our Interact Club president, to share more about the issue.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So as Christine said, I do serve as the Clements Interact president, and service is very important to me. I'm excited to talk about the importance of safety on school campuses and help spread awareness about the dangers of human trafficking. See, I've heard the phrase, Houston is ground zero for human trafficking, enough for me to remember the buzzwords, but not enough for it to sink in that the danger is very real. Growing up in Sugar Land, I never thought I would have to worry about being in danger, especially at school. Yet through researching, listening to survivors, it's prevalent that, that students are subjected to many different forms of violence, whether being groomed through social media or exploited within abusive relationships. And the biggest hurdle I believe many of us have had to come to terms with is understanding that there is no one type of trafficking, nor does it happen all at once. It is a gradual process that sneaks up on you before you become aware of it. Especially with how our generation has evolved with technology, trafficking has become ever more prevalent. And kid needs to know that there are measures in place in the places where they grow and learn are safe. I wholeheartedly believe that the no trafficking law is a great step to ensure safety is prioritized on campuses, and I'm very excited to work alongside my peers to provide educational resources and spread awareness about trafficking on campus. Thank you so much.
They just got a job. I've been speaking all these years. Nobody said that to me. They got a job. We are so honored. I'm so moved by these youth. And let's just give them another hand, won't you, please? Incredible, just incredible. And we witnessed them in a workshop strategy session the other week. And let me tell you, if you had heard the profound statements and thoughts coming from about 20 of these high school students collaborating from 7 different schools, actually it was more schools than that, with the Good Game kids added to it, we have a future that's going to be in good hands because they are going to take the lead. Give them another hand, will you, please? I want to mention that John Gibbs is here on behalf of Senator John Whitmire. Reverend Gibbs, would you like to have an expression for the senator, please?
Yes. Thank you, Bishop.
Yes, sir.
My name is Reverend John Gibbs. I work in the office as community liaison for the Dean, State Senator John Whitmire. And to the gentle lady from Texas, and to Bishop, and to our law enforcement, to the educators, to those who are here in this room, we are here because it's something that we feel very heartfelt about. It moves us emotionally. The scripture says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, against principalities." This is evil versus good. This is why this transcends blue or red, Republican or Democrat. This represents the humanity of our children, the seed, our future, and who we are as human beings that moves from humanity to divinity, that we're here to do a work, that we serve a high calling. And Courtney, I want to thank you for your words, because I see this is your ministry. This is your why. This is your purpose, and that's why we're here today. And we're going to move forward as soldiers. Bishop is going to lead us, and the Congresswoman is going to take this all the way back to Washington, D.C., and we're going to take our orders, and we're going to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for preachers get 3 closes, so this is about it. We're about to finish, but we're so grateful today to have with us board members of NTZ, and we're going to ask our board member, Judge Bonnie Helms, to have a closing remark, and she can recognize. Yes. Kelly, would you like to stand with as a board member next to Judge Helms? And then we're going to ask Pastor John Ogletree to give us a closing prayer over this issue. And we will. I'm sorry. Before we do that, I forgot. My bad. Congresswoman Michelle Jackson, won't you have your comments now before we get to the close? Okay.
Closing has to be resounding, but sometimes the work is not looked at in the global sense of human trafficking, Senator Taylor. So I just needed to have these 2 points left before I ceded the microphone, and that is the tragic difference between drug trafficking and human trafficking is that human trafficking goes on and on and on. The product of drugs is dastardly. It ends. You've got to get more. Human trafficking, you go on and on and on. It is a $32 billion industry and growing. And it continues because the tragic product is used over and over again. They're not released. They're not ended. They're not saying, thank you for 2 months and you're back to your family. They have to be rescued, or as I said, they may be lost forever. And then to the law enforcement, I can't thank them enough, because the Department of Justice has named our own very popular I-10 that I took to get here as, in fact, a human trafficking corridor. It goes across state lines, and it starts really rising in Houston, San Antonio, El Paso, and mid and small cities, as our deputy sheriff said. It is everywhere. So the magnitude of this gathering today is seismic. It is more than you might imagine, because you're talking about billions of dollars without, in many instances, any interference, because you are in places where you cannot be found. And I just want to add my appreciation again as I close to Bishop Dixon, to Jackie Alludo, to the NTZ. I see, as I said, Bishop Ogletree. I see the board chairman of Aldine ISD for his great work. I just want you to understand this is powerful, this is vast, this is tragic, and we have to stop this sinful, if I might use that word, and sinister action against human beings and our children. I close simply by, please allow me to acknowledge the tragedy of the loss of the 2 members of the Harris County Sheriff's Department. I have been just devastated by the loss and offered my sympathy. I want to do it publicly, and of course, not to ignore the tragedy that occurred in New York and the loss that the people of New York are suffering as well. Thank you, and keep all of them in your prayers. Thank you very much, Bishop, for allowing me.
I
I come to this board with a bit of a different perspective. I spent 20 years on a family law bench in Harris County and saw a lot of CPS cases. And right now I'm serving as chairman of the advisory board for the Department of Family and Protective Services for the state. And it has been wonderful to be able to work together with a variety of different people, and each time we see, uh-oh, there's a place where we're missing someone, we're able to get the advocates in, we're able to get the police in, we're able to get in. We're so grateful, and it's wonderful to have our commissioners' court all come together, and all of them contribute money to this incredible project of us trying to protect our children and our families. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I just would like to say I'm so honored to be among all of these distinguished guests today, and I don't know what I can add to what everybody's already said, but just this. I'm so glad to be from a state that good isn't good enough, and that we continue on, and we are going to plow the way and make Texas a place where trafficking is not going to happen.
Thank you, Bishop Dixon. Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you for the team that has come together to put a stop to this dastardly evil in our community. Thank you for NTZ. Thank you for Bishop Dixon. Thank you for Representative Thompson and Senator Taylor and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee and Miss Oludo. We thank you, God, for all of these who have led this effort. And we now pray, God, that prayer that your son taught us to pray. Lead our children not into this temptation. Let them not be tempted by these evil predators. Lead them not. Destroy this evil in our community. And thank you for Courtney, and we ask that you pray, deliver the Courtneys, deliver the Courtneys, deliver them from this evil. And we will thank you and be at peace in our state and nation. In Jesus' name, amen.
I want to be sure to mention that Harris County Attorney Christian Menifee was here. He had to rush off to another appointment. Commissioner's Court is going on, but he also wanted to make sure his support is well established here with NTZ. And thank you all for helping us create no trafficking zones everywhere across this city, state, county, and nation. We appreciate you. We're going to have all your names down as a part of that, because we know that if we do it together, we have to win, because God is on our side. Are there any questions at this point?
I think everyone's behind me saying international city, so let me break that down for what that means. You have 2 airports. You have one of the busiest ports. You have the border, and then you have I-10. So it's really a perfect storm. And then you have a lot of different cultures all coming together. And I think that that's really one of the biggest reasons. And I also think because Texas is really reporting a lot of their crimes, whereas other states aren't.
We have the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance, which is a number of different agencies that is run by the Federal Bureau of Investigation under the Southern District of Texas. But we are all partners in this effort. We work collaboratively. On any day, our viewers can assume that there's an active operation that has been administered and set up by HATRA. So yes, there have been a lot of different changes, including my office. We've restructured our office and created a division to focus just on human trafficking. Mark Hanna is president in the room. But yeah, we're all working together, and we're working relentlessly, tirelessly, every day, together across jurisdictions to eliminate the problem in our area.
So what if that is communicating electronically with somebody, as long as they were on campus, does that mean that it would fall under this?
Yes. Yes. Any communication at all to a student while they're on campus or attending a school-related event, if they're at a high school football game or a dance, if it's school-related, it's covered under the No Trafficking Zone law. SB 1831 was a bill. Okay. Any other questions? All right, let me thank you very much. Jacqueline Ludo, President, would be available for any direct commentary with any news media you'd like to share with her, or any of the elected officials as well. Thank you all so very much. Thank you, Bishop Livingston, for coming. Our pastors are here, and all of our leaders. We appreciate it. Thank you all so very much. God bless.